The quiet hum of the bank lobby shattered the moment the laughter began. It wasn't the polite kind of laughter people use to ease tension. This was loud, sharp, humiliating laughter, the kind meant to make someone feel small. In the middle of the polished marble floor stood a well-dressed black woman, holding a single $20 bill in her hand. People stared. Some whispered. Others pulled out their phones. Across the counter, the bank manager leaned back with a smirk that spread across her face, like she had just heard the most ridiculous joke of her career. To her, the scene was simple. A woman she assumed didn't belong there was trying to open an account with only $20. Security was already moving closer. 2 police officers stepped inside the building, and within seconds, the situation turned from embarrassing to explosive. But what no one in that room knew, not the laughing manager, not the whispering customers, not even the officers watching carefully, was that the woman holding that $20 bill had the power to change every single life inside that bank. Because minutes later, the laughter would stop, the whispers would turn into stunned silence, and the same bank that mocked her would suddenly belong to her. But before this shocking moment unfolds, make sure to like this video, share it with someone who believes in justice, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to Black Legacy for more powerful stories that expose truth and inspire change. Now, let's go back to where this story really began. Long before that humiliating moment inside the bank, Danielle Carter had learned one important lesson about the world. Respect was rarely given freely. She had grown up in a quiet neighborhood on the south side of Atlanta, raised by a single mother who worked double shifts cleaning office buildings downtown. Danielle spent many evenings sitting at the kitchen table doing homework, while her mother returned home exhausted but determined. Money was always tight, but dignity was never negotiable. Her mother believed in discipline, education, and resilience. She taught Danielle that people might underestimate her, judge her, or even try to humiliate her, but none of that defined her worth. Those lessons would shape Danielle's life in ways no one could have predicted. By the time Danielle graduated high school, she had already developed a fierce determination to succeed. Scholarships helped her attend college, where she studied finance and economics. While many students struggle with complex financial systems, Danielle saw patterns and opportunities. Money, she realized, was not just currency, it was power. After graduating with honors, Danielle entered the world of corporate finance. It wasn't easy. Boardrooms were filled with people who looked nothing like her. Many meetings ended with executives questioning her ideas or ignoring her presence entirely. But Danielle had something stronger than doubt. She had patience. Years passed, and slowly her reputation began to grow. She became known for spotting investments others overlooked. Companies that were once considered risky started thriving under her analysis. Eventually, Danielle launched her own investment firm. At first, the business was small. Then something remarkable happened. Her strategy worked. She began buying struggling local businesses and helping them grow. Restaurants, manufacturing companies, real estate developments. One by one, they transformed into successful ventures. Within a decade, Danielle Carter had quietly built a financial empire worth hundreds of millions. Yet despite her wealth, she remained grounded. She still remembered watching her mother count every dollar at the kitchen table. And she never forgot how easily people judged others based on appearances. Which is why, on a calm Tuesday morning, Danielle decided to walk into a neighborhood bank branch that had once rejected her mother years earlier. Not to cause trouble, not to prove a point, but simply to see something for herself. She dressed professionally but modestly. No luxury brands, no expensive jewelry, just a simple navy blazer and a calm confidence that came from years of experience. Inside her purse sat a small envelope, and inside that envelope was a single $20 bill. To anyone else, it seemed meaningless, but to Danielle, it represented something deeply personal. It was the first tip her mother had ever saved after cleaning offices one late night. Danielle had kept it for years, and today she planned to use it. The bank lobby was busy that morning. Customers stood in line waiting for tellers, while employees moved behind the counter with practiced efficiency. The building itself looked modern and professional, filled with glass walls and polished floors designed to project authority and trust. Danielle stepped inside quietly. At first, no one paid attention. She joined the line like any other customer, but when she reached the counter, something changed. The teller glanced at her request and hesitated. Danielle calmly explained that she wanted to open a new account. Then she placed a $20 bill on the counter. The teller blinked. $20 was technically enough to open a basic savings account, but something about the situation made her uncomfortable. Instead of processing the request, she called the branch manager. Within seconds, the atmosphere shifted. The manager approached with the kind of confidence that came from years of believing she was always in control. She looked Danielle up and down quickly, making silent judgments based on assumptions. Her expression changed the moment she saw the money. To her, this wasn't a serious customer. This was an inconvenience. And then the laughter came. It started as a quiet chuckle, but it quickly grew louder. Customers nearby began watching the scene unfold. Sensing something dramatic was happening, phones appeared. Whispers spread. The manager gestured toward the bill with open disbelief, treating the moment like a joke rather than professional transaction. Security guards slowly moved closer. The tension in the room thickened. Danielle stood calmly, her expression composed despite the humiliation surrounding her. She had seen this behavior before, the subtle arrogance, the quick assumptions, the quiet belief that some people simply did not belong in certain spaces. Then the situation escalated. The manager called the police. To her, it seemed reasonable. She believed the woman in front of her was causing a disturbance. Minutes later, 2 officers entered the bank. Customers stepped aside as they approached Danielle. Cameras continued recording. The humiliation had become a spectacle. But what none of them knew was that Danielle had already made a decision long before walking through those doors. She had planned for this moment, because while the bank employees saw a woman with $20, Danielle Carter saw something entirely different. She saw an opportunity. The silence inside the bank felt heavy. The police officers stood nearby, unsure whether the situation was truly serious or simply exaggerated. Customers watched with curiosity, waiting to see how things would end. The manager continued speaking confidently, convinced she was handling the situation correctly. But then Danielle reached into her purse, not for identification, not for another bill. Instead, she pulled out a folder. Inside that folder were documents, official documents, investment reports, ownership records, legal contracts. At first, no one paid attention. But as the papers spread across the counter, confusion slowly replaced arrogance, because those documents revealed something extraordinary. Over the past year, Danielle's investment firm had quietly been purchasing shares of the very bank they were standing in. Not small shares, controlling shares. Through a series of legal acquisitions and strategic investments, Danielle Carter had become the largest shareholder of the entire financial institution, which meant something shocking. The bank manager who had laughed moments earlier was now standing in front of the woman who technically owned the building. Phone stopped recording. The room fell silent. Even the police officers looked uncertain about what they were witnessing. Danielle remained calm. She had not come to create chaos, but she refused to ignore disrespect. Within minutes, a phone call was made to the bank's corporate headquarters. Executives confirmed the truth. Danielle Carter was not just a customer. She was now the majority owner. The same branch manager who had mocked her $20 deposit suddenly found herself facing the consequences of a moment that had been broadcast to dozens of witnesses. The laughter had vanished. In its place stood shock, embarrassment, and a quiet realization that power sometimes arrives in unexpected forms. By the end of that day, the story had spread far beyond the bank lobby. Videos recorded by customers appeared online, showing the moment when arrogance collided with reality. News outlets began covering the incident, turning Danielle Carter into a symbol of something much larger than a business acquisition. For many viewers, the story reflected a painful truth about society. Assumptions were still being made, judgments were still being formed, and sometimes respect was still denied to those who deserved it most. Danielle did not celebrate the humiliation of the manager. Instead, she made a different decision. After meeting with the bank's executive leadership, she announced a new initiative, The institution would begin investing in underserved communities, providing fair financial services, and supporting minority-owned businesses that had long struggled to access funding. The branch where the incident occurred would undergo leadership changes. Training programs would be implemented to ensure that every customer was treated with dignity and professionalism. Danielle understood something important. Real power wasn't about revenge. It was about change. Weeks later, she returned to the same bank branch quietly, not as a customer, but as the owner. Standing inside the lobby, she looked around at the same polished floors and glass walls that once felt unwelcoming. Now, they represented something different: progress, opportunity, and a reminder that the value of a person can never be measured by assumptions, because sometimes all it takes is a single $20 bill to reveal the truth about people. And sometimes the person being laughed at is the one holding all the power. If this story moved you, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who believes in fairness, comment your thoughts below, and subscribe to Black Legacy for more powerful stories that expose injustice and celebrate resilience. Because every story matters, and every voice deserves to be heard.